Okay, so real quick, now we're playing the MTD. This is an active bass, or I should say active preamp passive pickups. We're going to do the same thing with the V-15. Everything's going to be at 12 o'clock. That's both tubes engaged, but no ultra high or ultra lows are being used for this part. Okay.
What you want to start with. It really is. It's just there.
You know what I like too, and it's a noticeable difference from the passive bass.
Sure.
The passive bass has a roundness and a warmness to it because it's not having to worry about the active boost from the preamp. Because it's a preamp and an outboard preamp and an internal preamp, there's going to be some exchanges there. It's not bad. It's just noticeable, right? But what I like about this is that this is a modern bass, right? It's got a very modern tone to it. And like a lot of newer style basses, they have those modern accoutrements that people are drawn to. This accentuates that modern tone. It doesn't fight it, right? So you can hear that's more of a hi-fi kind of tone. The clarity is substantially greater to my ear, and the passive Fender Jazz had a more of a roundness to it that just felt more
old school.
Yeah, comfortable, right?
Yeah.
It had that comfortable kind of tone where, I'm guessing from an engineer's perspective, you'd be like, yes,
Yeah.
I want that I like.
Standard.
Do that.
Yeah.
But now, with your opinion, right? The controls are all at noon. Center detent, nothing crazy. It works because it's not fighting that modernness from that bass.
It's accepting it.
It works with it. There's a synergy. Yeah. Is that the buzzword?
Yeah.
There's a synergy, right?
I was curious what it was going to be with a modern bass going through, because obviously these are based on 60s and 70s.
Right, and that's why I had an initial gut feeling, and I didn't want to get ahead of myself, right? I didn't want to make up my mind, but I had a feeling that this was going to have a more of that synergy that we talked about with the instruments that were around and available for that general outline that this follows, right? Passive bass, very, very simple kind of layout as far as what the instrument is following. This probably will almost always work hand in hand, have maybe a better hand in that. But it's not like it's going to work worse with an active bass. It still sounds great.
Sure, yeah.
That was one of the things I was admittedly concerned about, and I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to have any bias towards it from Keith or from you or from myself even. It was something that I was like, maybe an active bass isn't going to sound as good on an outboard preamp.
I was curious myself.
I'm glad I was wrong, right? And it's not like
Yeah.
I fucking like did a whole like, you know, session or played a whole song or anything, just riffs and just running, but it didn't sound bad. It didn't get glassy. It didn't get brittle.
No.
It was very consistent as far as the tone, that tonality that it carried throughout the entire thing. And it wasn't like I'm just playing the handles the low fine. It's beautiful. Like I hate to sound like a Disney movie, but it's very beautiful. It sounds great.
Just like with the passive, it was clear.
Mm-hmm.
It had a wonderful charm to it, a color to it. And for me, what I'm most impressed about is that the consistency of the frequencies are there.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing sticks out. Nothing's poking out. Nothing's hitting you in the eye. Nothing's making you kind of turn a little bit like what's wrong there. It's all wonderful across the board from low register to high register. It's really
I really thought that this was going to get glassy and brittle with an active bass. I really did. Just because of what it was able to accomplish with a passive bass, that fullness that it kind of brings out, right? I thought like, okay, well, this is a 9 volt or an 18 volt basses. You know, you're gonna have a natural boost there out the gate. This is gonna be on top of that. I'm like, I don't know. Technique obviously plays a huge factor, right? Like F basses or active basses. Kevin Freeby, like I keep going back to that because his playthrough, one, he's very talented, and I'm not saying the other guys aren't talented. They are, but their play styles are different. He has a very unique playing style in that he's very fast with his thumb, but he's articulate, right? He's super articulate, and he's very, very fast. His left hand speed and his right hand drive on that thumb technique, super impressive. If you haven't seen him play, it sounds even better with this. But he's got a tremendous technique, and he's super, super good player. But you know, he plays F basses, and F basses are also active, just like you know most of the boutique basses that are out now. They're pushing a 9 volt or an 18 volt. That's just what they're running. I know F bass does that, and I had to hear for myself because admittedly there is a huge technical approach that's tremendously different from how he plays versus a lot of other people, right? Especially his hand, the way his hand is positioned and how he plays those notes. I wanted to see for myself firsthand to differentiate because I had to separate his technique from what this was doing. Mm-hmm. I'm happy that I was wrong and that it wasn't going to be glassy or brittle with somebody that's maybe, or lack of a better term, more of a rudimentary player. Exhibit A. And that the fact that it doesn't work against you regardless of your skill level, right? Because sometimes really good gear brings out how really not good you are. And all this does is it accentuates how really not good you are, but you still sound good not being good. If that makes sense.
This is it's certainly not going to hurt you.
No, I definitely would not be mad.
I think it's going to...
Like, I want to cause conflict with front of house. I'm like, God, this guy sucks, but his tone sounds great.
Yeah, you bring this to live gigs, any FOH engineer is going to be in love.
They're going to love it, yeah.
It's like a set it and forget it. It's like, bass player's done.
It's done. Let's run through the 60s tone.